If it's happening in your country or around the world, Power 98.7 is your eyes and ears. Now we're talking.
It is Power Lunch indeed, 0861 987 000. Let's speak to Dean Wright now, who's a defense analyst. And as you know, South Africa has begun the phased withdrawal of its troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo. They had been deployed under the Southern African Development Community mission to combat armed groups destabilizing the region. The withdrawal follows a directive issued by or at the SADC Heads of State Summit in March, and troops are expected to return via a carefully planned route through Rwanda and Tanzania. While the SANDF has assured the public that the repatriation of personnel and equipment will be safe and coordinated, the move raises questions about South Africa's shifting foreign policy posture, the impact on regional peacekeeping efforts, and what this means for the DRC. Dean, thank you very much for joining us on Power Lunch this afternoon. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So this has been in the news for a while because of how many SANDF members we lost at a certain time, the repatriation of bodies, and then the questions, of course, started arising about what South Africa is even doing in that region. So let's talk about now, why is the SANDF withdrawing? What's the significance of this moment and the significance of this move in the context of what's going on in the DRC?
Yes. As you mentioned before in the introduction, the situation in the DRC really took a turn for the worse in January of this year when the M23 rebel group really started a new offensive in the eastern DRC and in the North Kivu province. And by February, the group had taken control of both Goma in North Kivu and Bukavu, which is the capital of South Kivu. And both of these key cities are also rich in minerals as well. So South Africa was involved in the SADC mission in the DRC since for about a year and a half now. And the SADC was particularly involved in trying to prevent the rebels from taking Goma and the little city of Sake, about 25 kilometers northwest of it, where they were actually headquartered. And with the taking of Goma, that was where the majority of the South African troops were killed, along with 3 of the Tanzanian and Malawian colleagues. So that was 3 months ago. So as you mentioned, there's been a lot of negotiation in the background, not much of it known in the public. But on the 13th of March was when the SADC regional heads decided to actually terminate the SAMI DRC mission. And because the situation was pretty much untenable. The South African, Malawi, and Tanzanian troops were pretty much being held prisoner in Sake and Goma airport. So the only real option really was to proceed with this phased withdrawal. And part of that was, to assist the Rwandan-backed M23 rebel group in opening Goma airport so they could all be easily airlifted back. But then again, in the second week of April, there was some intense fighting going on again for a couple of days in and around Goma. So as we've seen on the 11th of April, the SADC chiefs of defense sort of recognized that, that they weren't going to open Goma airport anytime soon. And so they then came up with a revised plan to repatriate all the troops via Rwanda by road to Chato in northern Tanzania. And the very next day, M23 then said, well, given what has happened, we demand your immediate withdrawal. No longer this phased withdrawal that was going to take at least up to September, October this year. We now want you immediately gone. So that's pretty much where we are at the moment on the SADC side of things, in that there's still negotiations going on between the Congolese government and M23 slash the AFC political grouping via Qatar and so on. But what has come out of that Qatar negotiations is that on the 23rd of April, the Congolese government and M23 agreed to work towards a ceasefire. And that's very important, particularly with trying to get the South African and Tanzania Malawian troops out of the DRC, because it's not much fun trying to extract your troops when there's an active conflict going on all around you. So that is a good point, and that is why I think the SADC is now withdrawing the troops right now to try and meet an end of May deadline.
Yeah. You know what? It's also very interesting to see the particular route that's been taken to withdraw our troops. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, the logistics, the safety operation? Because we know it's what, through Rwanda and Tanzania, right?
That's correct. On a high level, the process is that the SADC forces are going to depart Sake and Goma via road through Rwanda into northern Tanzania to the town of Chato, which has got a very nice airport there, long runway, and it's got an established Tanzanian Defence Force contingent there as well. So it makes it a very good logistics base for, particularly for South Africa, to come to be airlifted from northern Tanzania back to South Africa.
Yeah.
Of course, it took multiple large cargo aircraft to airlift all our armored vehicles and weapon systems to Goma. So it's not an easy process to come back. The roads in Rwanda are pretty good. They've got an escort by the Rwandan Defence Forces, and although the SADC has also done reconnaissance in that area just to make sure that it's all safe and the roads are able to handle the logistics of it. Obviously, coming into Tanzania, the roads aren't as good, but still possible, and in order to get to Chato. But it's a long distance, and SADC troops South African troops will be under sort of a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. The immediate packing up, the current conditions where they are at the moment is not great. They get meals once, twice a day. They're under huge pressure. They're being watched by M23. M23 is controlling just about everything that they do and can do. So even with the packing process, M23, I believe, is insisting on inspecting everything, which just delays and adds an extra stress factor to a really stressful situation.
It is a very stressful situation, and we haven't even really begun to unpack a lot of it, but it will definitely be in our news bulletins and conversations like this in the days to come. Defence analyst Dean Wright, thank you very much for your time.